Okay, thank you. So as I mentioned, John started hosting his Chatter and Natter table in August last year. Well, actually, could I just also ask everyone to mute yourselves as well? If that's okay. Thank you. There will be an opportunity for questions towards the end, but that's great if you can just mute yourselves now to take out some background noise. John Haslam, who, as I said, who I've got here today, has been hosting his Chatter and Natter table for a number of months now. And John actually took our 12-week plan, which is the document that you should see on my screen in a moment. So John's been working through the guide and what we set out in our 12-week plan to help promote his table. And when I pass over to John in a moment, he's going to talk through how he's implemented that and the progress and how he's got on. Towards the end of John's piece, I'm also going to play a short video of John's Chatter and Natter table in action. And as I mentioned, we'll also have an opportunity at that stage as well for any questions. So I know that was a kind of short and sweet intro, but John, is that okay if I now pass over to you?
Yeah, thank you, Abby. Afternoon, everybody. Great to meet you all, and appreciate you taking the time to listen to my story today. So as Abby said, I live in Brackley. I'm 56. Brackley is a small market town, kind of near to Silverstone or Bicester Village, depending on what you like doing in your spare time. At the end of 2021, I took early retirement, and at that time, I wanted to do something to help the local community, but I didn't really know what. I had lots of goodwill and good intentions, but I didn't really know how to go about it. So probably like a lot of you, I registered for the Good Morning Britain Million Minutes campaign, and that led me to the Chatty Cafe in early 22. Initially working with Jenny, actually, you just met a moment ago. I started off as a call befriender, and really got to see the value and the benefit of the Chatty Cafe as I've made some calls to a couple of one chap who really sticks in my mind a lot, who was stuck at home. He really couldn't get out. He was quite isolated. COVID had just compounded it, and built a really good relationship with him over sort of 10-12 week period. And as I say, that really gave me this sort of sounding board for just how valuable Chatty Cafe could be. And as it led to the summer of 22, so about a year ago, I set myself the challenge: could I actually build in Brackley, where there's no existing relationship with Chatty Cafe, as it were, there's no existing cafe support, could I build a Chatter and Natter table from scratch in the town? And today, 7 months in, it's gone pretty well, and I wanted to share that journey with you. It's my story, so you will obviously build your own. And I don't have all the answers. I'm not pretending I have all the answers, but I am very proud of what's been achieved here, and particularly the difference it's made to people, which is ultimately what we're trying to do, supporting the Chatty Cafe. So take what you want from the session. Some of you may like to write notes, some of you may just wait for the recording. But what I can promise you is it's an honest and straight experience sharing, good and bad. And I thought I wouldn't do slides. I'd just keep it as my verbal overview, and probably best described as what I'd wish I'd known at the start. So lots of what I cover, as Abby's already said, is in the 12-week guide, and this is a really good document to kind of to give you a sort of what do I do first, what do I do next, what do I do next guide. And so the purpose of this session is to walk you through what I did as best I can. Now I'm conscious that I think we've got venue owners, venue staff, new volunteers, and also existing volunteers on the call, so that's quite a big range of community. So I'm going to try and make sure the content is relevant for all of you as much as I can, so that'll be of extra value to everybody. And as Abby said, there's an opportunity for questions at the end, but if you don't feel comfortable speaking out on Zoom, or we run out of time, just scribble something down on your notepad or whatever. And if you email Abby, and if you want to follow up chat with me, or just a quick kind of, if there's something that I say you think I'd like to know a bit more about that, please take time to ask Abby, and I'll follow up with any of you that want to kind of follow up chat afterwards. So so that's the background to me. What I would say is there's three keys to success. So as I look back at the last 7 months, what's worked and what hasn't worked, and what I wish I'd known, there are 3 definite keys to making this work. And because they're the 3 keys to success, they're also your biggest challenges to overcome. That's how life goes. So if you are making notes, the first one is how do you paint the town yellow? It's great to have this guide, but how do you get everybody, as many people as possible, talking about what you're doing? Because that's the key. If you can get your community talking about Chatty Cafe to each other, it's not all down to you, then so much the better. The second point for me would be accept that you can't do it all on your own. And people that you meet wherever you go will love the Chatty Cafe. If you've got any experience of a volunteer so far, you'll know this, that everybody you talk to loves the concept, they love the idea, and your challenge is to kind of harness that goodwill to get other people talking about it for you, so it isn't all down to you to help promote it. And the third key to success, and still the biggest one, the hardest one, and I'm sure you'll all have experience of this if you've tried, is how do you get people to take the plunge and come to the sessions? So many people that I've spoken to had the best of intentions. They might have woken up on a Thursday to come, and for whatever reason, the nerves, GBs, the kind of something gets in the way, and they just can't take the plunge to come, and that's the biggest challenge. It's the number one feedback I've had. So whether you're a venue, whether you're a host, how do you overcome that? How do you get around that? And I've got a few thoughts in everything I'm going to cover now that sort of deals with those 3 keys to success. So that's hopefully useful as an introduction. Then if I then turn to, so what did I actually do? So back to the summer of last summer, August 22, the first point that I had to find, this was relevant to everybody, was to get the right venue. I can't stress enough how important that getting that right at the start has been for me over the last 7 months. To start with, again, using the guide, I kind of reviewed the town, and criteria that I was looking at was the sort of size of the venue, how popular is it in the town, do I like going there? Is it accessible? So can people with mobility challenges comfortably get to it? Because that'll be part of your community you want to encourage. So almost like a checklist criteria, and it gave me a short list of sort of 2 or 3 venues that I quite liked. And probably as important as all of those sort of practical things is the venue committed to helping you? Do they understand the Chatty Cafe, and do they want to really get behind it? And if I'm honest, first couple of approaches I made weren't so good. I won't name the venues because it's not fair to, maybe it was my approach, it wasn't quite right, but one in particular sticks in my mind, that they were a little bit too hung up on the revenue from it, and they were kind of missing the point of what we were trying to achieve. So yeah, be careful to try and pick the right person in the venue. So if it is a smaller venue, get to speak to the manager, get to speak to the owner, get someone that will understand it, and hopefully, if they support it, be able to articulate that right the way through the staff that they have there. So I eventually met Richard, who's the owner of the Lounge Cafe Bar in Brackley. And what was different about that conversation was that, as much as I was talking about the benefits to him as a venue owner, so the potential increased revenue, the greater footfall, all that kind of practical considerations, all he wanted to talk about was helping the local community, and actually seeing that would build or improve his profile as a business. It's a competitive town, there's lots of cafes, so why would someone go to the Lounge rather than somewhere else? And he was very much thinking about this sort of almost the moral benefits, the perception in the town, the fact that the Chatty Cafe was based there. And that's where we struck our relationship right from the get-go, and that's maintained ever since. In meeting him, he got me to get introduced to the staff so they can feel involved, and hopefully care. Because what's interesting is that for a lot of the people that will come to your sessions, they view the staff as much as you as a part of it, because they're bringing the coffees, they're interacting. So it's very much, if you can feel like a part of a team with the staff there as a host volunteer, it really makes a difference. And the crucial thing we did was to discuss the best time to run a Chatter and Natter table. For him, he was worried about lunchtime rush, so we discounted kind of the busiest days, and we discounted the busiest times of day for him so it wouldn't clash. And we ended up with 3 till 5 on a Thursday. And that was what we decided 7 months ago. And as I talked to you today, that's still the time. We lock it down, and that's the weekly Chatter and Natter session we have every Thursday, 3 till 5. Useful to keep it the same, because when you we talk in a moment about how you promote it, it's reinforcing to everybody in the town. They get to know that if they want to come, it's 3 till 5, and they know exactly when and where, and that sort of reinforcement's really useful. Richard's then gone on to really almost take it a stage further as a supporting venue. He's got a pavement sign now, and he's got the Chatty Cafe logo loaded into that. He joins in on the day. He comes and sits with people, and they know him as Richard, and he's very much a part of the community, as most people that come would see. And also his social media, I say company, it's a person who does his social media. They also do posts on behalf of the Chatter and Natter sessions, Chatty Cafe, and it's a very seamless, cohesive relationship now, which is ideal. So number one, get the right venue. The next thing really was to kind of set the first date for having a Chatter and Natter session. For me, it was a mental commitment, because I knew that I got the venue, and I knew that I wanted people to come, but I needed to give myself enough time to kind of get the thing, get enough awareness out to run the first table. With hindsight, probably doesn't matter that much, because you've got every week thereafter, but in your mind, and I'm sure this will resonate with some of you, you kind of almost don't, you have that fear that you're going to start doing this, and what if nobody comes? And you have to get over that, because they will eventually come. So for me, I gave a 2-week lead-in period, 2 weeks to get myself busy, to start promoting it, and then to have the first session in 2 Thursdays time from 3 till 5. So that's what I did. And then comes that period of time, then comes probably the most time-consuming part for you, as you'll be doing most of the time in the preparation and the kind of concept building for it, without getting any immediate return. You're not suddenly going to get a flurry of people coming, but it is worth it in the end, I promise you. And so if you're thinking when you're listening to me now, do I want to give an hour a week? Do I want to give 2 hours a week? Can I only afford 30 minutes a week? You just make it work according to your time that you want to give to it. So having got the first date in, I had the venue, then it was all about trying to promote it. And 2 obvious sources really to do that, one being social media. Social media was the easiest way. I joined all of the local Facebook groups I could find. I think I'm on about 7 or 8 now, locally in Brackley. Brackley, what's it all about? Brackley, what's on? Events and promotions. So there's a reaching point there of probably 7,000 or 8,000 people in the town, if they all look at the posts. That for me was the quickest and easiest way to reach out to the town, to get the kind of the quickest impact, if you like. Right from the start, I've done 2 posts a week. I always do a post the day before a Chatter and Natter session, and a post the day after, or sometimes 2 days after. So kind of what we're going to do, and then what happened posts. And I keep them positive and upbeat. People like successful things, so they like to feel a part of something that looks successful. So I don't focus on the target being loneliness and isolation, even though that's what we all know the target, the Chatter and Natter Chatter Cafe session charity is. It's very much about community, about coming and joining some friendly people and making it look really attractive. So get the wording quite carefully created to make it look appealing. And major on your posts on who else might enjoy. Encourage people to share, because in my mind, a lot of the people that use Facebook, as I'll come to in a moment, aren't necessarily the people that will come, but they'll have relatives, they'll have friends, they'll have neighbours that might be interested in this. So encourage them to share, think about who they know in their community that might like to come. So right from the start, that's what I did. And also I set up a Facebook group, which if you want to search for it is called Chatty Cafe Brackley, originally enough. It's got about 80 members now. And again, it's just a local way of if people are a little bit concerned about coming the first time and maybe they want to see a little bit more before they commit, you can encourage them in your post to join your Facebook group and just look at what's going on, look at what happens, look at how the structure of the Chatty Cafe scheme behind them. So if any of you want to join that scheme, Chatty Cafe, if that's a way to reach me, just search for Chatty Cafe Brackley and sign up, and you'll see how it's run over the last few months. So that's social media. That was, if you like, the easiest way to start. It takes me probably 10 minutes each post each week now, so not a big commitment of time, but highly impactful. But the fact remains that of my community that come, and I'm sure yours will be the same, probably 30 or 40% of people that come don't have Facebook. They don't use social media. They're perhaps more elderly, and that's not something that they do. So you have to take a different approach for those. And this is where, coming back to my 3 keys to success, you really need to lean on the help of others to make it work. So with Abby's help, I had some of you may have seen this already, some posters and flyers made. So this is a poster just promoting, you won't be able to see it in small print there, around the Chatty Cafe scheme and the fact that we've got this get together in the lounge from 3 till 5 every Thursday. I also had a mini version, so little flyers, exactly the same thing, but just a smaller version that I can leave in places to for people to pick up and take away with them. These have been invaluable in spreading that word, in sort of painting the town yellow. That's the value that these things can have. So if I give you a kind of visual image of me, I put my rucksack on one day and went trudging around the town to visit as many of the places I'm going to talk about in a moment as possible. It might sound daunting to some of you that if you've got to go and sort of walk into all these places, you don't necessarily know people, shops and cafes, and sorry, not cafe shops, and town council and other venues that you maybe want to try and spread the word. But what I can promise you is, everywhere you go, once they realize you're not a salesman, everywhere you go, people will give you a warm welcome. They'll love the concept of the Chatty Cafe. They'll love what you're trying to do, and they'll want to help you. And that's the crucial part. So if I just give you a few examples here of what I did, started with the town council. So I walked into the town council offices, didn't know what response I got. And within 10 minutes, there's about 4 or 5 ladies working in there, and they were absolutely, completely behind it. Loved the idea, and were asking me what they could do to help. And that led to posters in all the town council notice boards in the town. They put one in the window. They have flyers, because lots of elderly people come into the council offices asking for whatever else. And if they have any sense anybody's struggling or a bit lonely, they recommend the Chatty Cafe to them. They even got the mayor to come to the first table that I had, just as a kind of a show of support to get behind it in the town. Really, really fantastic. Doctor's surgeries, I've got 3 doctor's surgeries in the town. They all were really responsive. They promote the posters, and they introduced me to the link workers, and the link workers are quite often the referrals. If a doctor sees someone who's suffering depression or loneliness or isolation, they refer to link workers, and because they know about the Chatty Cafe, they will make recommendations for people to come to these sessions. Only 1 phone call needed to do that, but really, really powerful and valuable. Local newspaper journalists got involved. Debbie, she's heard about it. I invited her to come to one of the sessions, and she then did some articles in the local media, which has been really useful. Care homes are a little bit more sensitive to deal with, because they've got their own considerations of relatives, but I have been able to get some care homes to send some more recently introduced residents who perhaps still crave the outside world, but are gradually getting used to life in a care home. Great opportunity for them to come to the Chatter and Natter sessions, and those that come have a whale of a time. You can see how much it means to them being able to get out and come and have a cup of coffee with some friends. Supermarket shops, so most of your local bigger supermarkets will have a care in the community member of staff, someone that's in what you're doing. So again, they'll promote the posters, their flyers, and they've been really helpful. And just one more to mention, funeral directors. I thought, would that work? Is that somewhere I can go? So I went into a funeral directors and just got chatting, and that's been a fantastic source of help, because typically with the funeral directors, at the end of the journey, when they've obviously the deceased family are trying to get ready to get back into life, that's when they introduce the Chatty Cafe as a way of gradually, if you've just lost a partner, what are you going to do with your life? The Chatty Cafe is a great way to kind of re-engage with society in a gentle way. And one of the funeral directors' husbands has early onset dementia, so she comes now. She brings him on a Thursday, and it's just been lovely. But you'll have your own versions of these in your town. You might have some things that I haven't mentioned, and you might have the same. I don't know. But what I would absolutely encourage you is don't be afraid of going into these places. Talk to them, because you'll get a fantastic reception, and they've been fantastic, really, really helpful to me, because I couldn't have built it like I have if I hadn't had the support of all these places. So little insight there into how to build it. And then probably the most important part is what happens on the day. So when you run your Chatter and Natter session, how do you promote it and make it work, and mindful of that thing I said earlier about how hard it is for people to come the first time. So we've already covered off that we picked the launch date, and we had the exact same time every week, 3 till 5. We put yellow balloons on the pavement sign, so it's kind of quite visual, and it draws people's attention to it, which is quite a nice kind of, if they've got a pavement sign or something, we even just put it on the corner where the cafe is sometimes if the pavement sign isn't available. You'll all have yellow lanyards, so I always make a big point of wearing that, and all the posts I do promoting Chatty Cafe, I'll put my mugshot on there with me with a yellow lanyard standing by the door. So it's all about this, dealing with that hardest part of the first time people come. So I always stand by the door, I always there to greet them, always have the lanyard on. I've even seen, I've learned over time, people, you see them, they started lurking, they're thinking, do I come, can I do it? So I've learned to just stand just literally with the door open and be able to kind of reach people if they to drag them in off the street if they're trying to if they're in two minds whether to come or not. But be visible, be really approachable. Let everybody know what you look like from the post that you put on Facebook, so they know what to expect. And once they get to that door, once you get them in within 10 minutes, everybody's comfortable. It's just that first step, getting over the door. Another idea we do is we have name badges every week. So just rolls, stickers, paper, sticky labels. One of the ladies that has been a regular, she's a nominated label writer, and it's such an easy icebreaker. People come, they feel that maybe they don't know everybody else in the room. If there's 20 or 30 people there, it's quite intimidating. So everyone has a name badge. Jane writes them out. She does it in a spidery writing. We all laugh about it, and it's a fabulous icebreaker. So it's I highly recommend doing that. As a host, I always keep an eye out on the table, look for anybody that may be struggling or maybe not engaged. In the nature of the cafe I'm in, it has to be long tables, it's not round tables, so there is a danger if people are turning their backs, someone can be isolated. So as a host, I'm just kind of making sure if that happens that there's somebody to talk to them and move people around if need be. But the other useful part is to take pictures and videos of the group. Always get their consent before you use them, obviously, but most people are very happy to be involved in it. And again, I've learned over time that natural poses, so don't get people all their cups up looking at you. It's better to get pictures of the group just engaged, videos of the group just engaged. And if you post that, it gets such a good reaction because it just looks like a lot of fun. Somebody posted one of my posts a couple of weeks ago that they counted the number of mobile phones they could see people using, and they're very pleased to see there was only one. So that's a sure sign that it's a Chatter and Natter session rather than anything else. And don't feel bad if you don't have a lot of people at the start. So for me, day one literally was myself, the owner Richard, the mayor, who came and always regalia. He was only going to come for 10 minutes, and we sat around a table. And it was great, and the mayor stayed for 2 hours, and we just chatted, and I realized in that moment how much fun it is just to sit and chat, because you don't do that with strangers. It's not something that we do. And so the week after that, I had 2 new people come. It was gold dust for me, absolutely brilliant. You've done all this work and suddenly people start to come, and then it grew and grew from there. But if there is only 2, if you only ever have 5 people there, you're making such a difference to those 5 people. So don't worry if it isn't big numbers. That's not it's not a quantity measure, it's a quality measure that counts here. So so in terms of me as a what do I get from running these sessions? For me, I've loved watching it grow. I've loved knowing the difference that it makes to people in the town. We had a 6-month party. My wife and I, we ran a 6-month celebration party a couple of weeks ago, and we had a cake, bright yellow cake, and we decorated it in balloons and flowers, and the lounge closed to the public, and we made it feel like a special thing. And it was such a fabulous atmosphere, and that's come in 6 months. That built from scratch, and it's not now just a Chatter and Natter session where people come for a coffee. It's community. It's actually community building. And just to finish, one story, just to kind of hopefully bring it all to life for you, which particularly means a lot to me. There's a lady called Jane who came to week 4, so she'd been one of my regulars all the way through, and her husband has dementia. That affects him as he can't communicate, so he loves to come with her, but he can't join in the chat, but he sits and he smiles and he's engaged with it. And Jane is the label writer that I mentioned. But where it's really come sort of to the forefront of me, just the power it's had, is she hit rough times recently. She had a fall and broke her wrist. Ian, her husband, and her both had COVID. He then had to have respite in a home, which he's currently still in, and we're not sure if he's going to come out. Jane was stuck on her own. She didn't know anybody in the town, because when she'd moved here, she'd come in with Ian and he'd had the illness straight away. So she hadn't been able to gel into the local community. But through the course of everything I've just described, the broken wrist, the recovering from COVID, someone went round shopping. A member of the group went in to cook her scrambled eggs on toast one day. Someone else just pops in to sit with her. And it's that whole community gathering around her that just came from the Chatter and Natter sessions. And for her, it's been, as she said to me the other day, it's an absolute lifeline. You know, without that, she would have been stuck at home dealing with all the things, all the same challenges, but without help of the local community. And that's the difference this can make, that you know, if you all take the time to build it in whatever scale, whatever basis that works for you, that's the impact you can be having 7 months down the line. And for me, that makes it all worthwhile. So with that, I hope the insight has helped. I hope I haven't scared anybody off with the amount of work. It doesn't have to be that much. Genuinely, honestly, at the start, probably an hour to 2 hours a week for the first few weeks to get up and running. But now it's the time that you take on the actual Chatter and Natter sessions, and 10-15 minutes doing Facebook posts. So it's not particularly labor intensive, but it's worked really well for me. I hope that's given you some useful insight. As I said earlier, if there's anything I've said that you just want to talk about or get a bit more information of, let Abby know, and I'd be more than happy to spend the time chatting to anybody. So Abby, with that, I'll pass back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much, John. And just to mention that Jeanette put a really nice message in the chat. I'm not sure if you've seen that, saying she feels very encouraged by what you said. So thank you. So as John mentioned at the start of his piece, he mentioned that he found out about the Chatty Cafe scheme through ITV and through the Good Morning Britain programme when we did a campaign with them in December 2022. And then a year later, they actually sent their filming crew in to film how John's getting on. So I'm just going to share my screen now and show you that video, because I think it's really nice bringing it to life. And then after that, I am around, so if anyone has any questions, again, very happy to take them, or as John mentioned, please email me. And John very kindly did say he's happy to speak separately. So I'll just share my screen, play this video.
Hello, nice to see you.
I'm John, I'm 56, and each week I host a Chatter and Natter table at a cafe in Brackley. And so I was determined when I stopped working that I would take the chance to do more for my local community. And one morning I was watching Good Morning Britain, and they had the Million Minutes campaign, and I decided to sign up as a volunteer and take it from there. We started with 1 or 2 people. Exponentially, it's sort of grown and doubled, and just coming up to the 10th week. And last week we had 31 people, and today may even be 40. All sorts of different people with all sorts of different backgrounds. They could all have come in here individually and sat on different tables and felt even more lonely. But by getting together, it just brings everybody back to life, and it's so fantastic to watch. The joy of volunteering is your opportunity to do something for your local community that can make you feel so good about yourself. You can help end loneliness by supporting the 1 Million Minutes campaign.
Thank you.
I hope everyone could hear that okay.
Huh?
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So look at that, bang on 3:30.
Wow.
So that timekeeping. yeah, very, very good. I don't know if anyone, I know it can be a little bit daunting in this setting asking questions, but would anyone like to ask anything? And I'm sorry I've muted you all, so if you have a question, try to unmute yourself. Don't know. Oh, Stuart. Hiya, Stuart.
Hi, Abby. Hi. Thank you, John. That was lovely. Hello, everybody. I'm breaking the ice, hopefully, tomorrow at a local cafe in my town, similar size to Brackley. I'm just interested in John's and other people's experiences of getting your first bash at recruitment done. I've been going around with leaflets that I've made. I've been going around to hairdressers. There's a lot of old people in the town. I've been going to bookshops and lots of other places. But one thing I haven't done is I haven't gone onto social media, because when I look at the social media in our town, I get the impression that half the people on it are fruitcakes or just looking for a fight. Maybe I'm just being too cautious.
So can I jump in there? So what I would say is that what's really nice about the Chatty Cafe is if you go into the groups and post, you seem to be immune from the kind of people you're talking about. I don't know if it's just because it's not a challenging concept, and it's for everyone to benefit. I genuinely haven't had any silly comments or objections or people trying to be clever or anything. It's just been really well received. And with any Facebook group, if people will comment if they want to, and they won't if they don't want to. So I don't let that put you off, because that's your way to reach people. Because you can't do it on your feet going into hairdressing. You know that's your way to reach. And stress. Can I stress when you post on there, make sure that what you're saying almost is it might not be for you, but what about your friends, relatives, neighbours?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So you want them to share it.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, John. And Dave, I know you've been doing this for a long time, and you've just put that helpful group post comment on the chat function. I don't know if you saw that as well, just about look for general local groups pages. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah. Well, I'm in South Yorkshire, an old pit town called Maltby. So there's like we've got groups like Maltby past and present, where you've got the older people there who reminisce, or the library group, or maybe the local running group. You know, there's if you just search Maltby or search his town or village name on Facebook, group pages will pop up, and that's where you could target, as opposed to individual people who'll just dismiss you straight away.
Getting to know all the local groups in Brackley, because I didn't know any of these existed, if I'm honest. Before I started doing this, I didn't know just what a amazing community it is, and they all help each other. Everybody's looking out for each other. It's not like you're in competition with anybody. They're just there to support you. And you know, I learned about Brackley Food Bank group last week. I didn't even really know that was even a thing, and I reached out to them in Facebook, and we had 2 new joiners last week that came because of that. So
I deal with I work for a non-league football club. I'm volunteer vice chairman and I'm not Brackley have got a non-league football side, which would be a good target. You didn't mention them on a list of places you've been. So a lot of older people watch non-league football, and that would be worth pushing your promotion there.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Like I said, I don't have all the answers. I'm writing that one down. Yeah.
I've been doing it a year now. I'm into my 2nd year. I started it Christmas, February, and I got a bit lucky because the tea room I use volunteered to do the Chatty Cafe. When I googled it, who did it near me, they were one of them, and they took me in. They honestly didn't think I'd last, but I have. And I go. I mean, but the best thing about my place is the people who I see go there anyway. So I'm quite lucky. They go there Monday to Saturday. I'm there on a Friday for 1 hour. Some just go for me. Some are going to be there anyway, and they choose to sit with me for 10 minutes, and they'll disappear off with their mates. So I found it a lot easier than maybe some might do. Yeah. Because I do it as representation of the community football club. Then I get a lot of gentlemen coming as well, which was nice.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dave. And can I just take a question? I'm sorry, I'm not sure what your name is. It says Divine Learning.
It's Bella, actually. Sorry, it came up on my work one, but it's Bella from Headcorn, Heart of Headcorn. I've just got a bit of a question. One of the things I'm worried about is that what you do if you've got difficult people, is there any sort of training or anything you can help? You can provide for that, because say if someone turns up sort of drunk, or they start being abusive, or there's one person who goes around the church group sort of asking everyone for money and stuff. And you know, of course you want to signpost these people and try not to be judgmental, but at the same time you don't want them putting everyone else off and being a menace. You know, how do you deal with this sort of thing? Is there any sort of, apart from our basic safeguarding policies, you know, how do you sort of gently eject these people or discourage them or try and sort of signpost them in the right way so they're not being disruptive? What do you do in those situations? Has anyone had experience those difficult people or not?
We have. Sorry to jump in there, but we had somebody come in and trying to sell religion at one of our meetings, and it was really very inappropriate because somebody had just lost their wife as well. So we didn't want to be lectured to by this. But I think just a quiet word with them, isolating them a bit from the group, and they haven't been back to the group. They obviously wanted to be on a sales promotion and it didn't quite work. That wasn't the resource for them, so they didn't come back. Yes, I think just tact and discussion.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's difficult to kind of cover every single scenario that could come up, but as Susie said, it's definitely about trying to de-escalate any problems like that as much as you can, and just to reiterate, you know, that you are there just to chat, and it not to be kind of sidelined into anything else. I don't know, John, have you had any?
No, I haven't really had anything as severe as that example. I've had, there are some characters that are stronger than others. There's one chap who's a little bit overbearing that comes, so I asked for a couple of the other group to help with it, so they talk to him. So I'm almost thinking about him. Who do I best put him next to? I wouldn't let him sit next to people that would struggle with, but that's the worst I've had. And what I would say is, if anybody was sort of drunk or really disorderly, we're volunteers for the Chatty Cafe. I think if someone was out of order, the venue would probably take the responsibility for if removal was needed or anything like that. But touch wood, I haven't had any experiences that sound like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the good thing, you know, remembering you are carrying out this volunteering role in a public place, and that, you know, the venue staff will also have processes.
Yeah, so in our case, we are the venue, so.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, so slightly more difficult. Thank you. Did anyone have any other questions? I'm just going to make a note of some of the comments as well. And in terms of, sorry, go on.
Could I just ask John one question?
Yeah, of course.
In all the sessions, John, with the people there, do you ever take anybody's details, like email or phone numbers? Because we've been asked whether we would do that, and I think it's not the right thing to do, because you're not trying to be their best friends and want communication on a one-to-one. It's more of a anonymous, if you like. They can come and chat to whoever they want, whenever they want, but not to be personally involved.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Actually, I probably should have covered that. It's very easy. The more you get to know people who come regularly, you do get closer to them. And I deliberately put a little bit of a wall up there just to stop people getting too close. Other people in the group can become friends and share numbers, and that's fine. And I encourage that. That the only exception has been Jane, the lady I was describing the story, where she was just stuck, and so she lives around the corner from me, so I help her. But that's the exception. But as a rule, I try and just keep a little bit of personal distance from it, because otherwise it could go to a whole different level in terms of expectations and responsibilities. So yeah, it's a good point.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, no, John, I'm sorry to keep you on, because I know if you're okay just for a few more minutes, is it okay if I take one more question? In fact, two more questions, sorry. But obviously I'm conscious of time, so if anyone else does need to drop off, you know, please feel free to do so. Sorry, I can't see your full name. Is it L Burdett?
Yeah, hello, I'm Lucy.
Hi, yeah.
So I'm
Lucy.
probably coming at it from a different angle. So I'm not the venue, but I work for Dunelm. So we're looking at putting chatty cafes into our Pauser coffee shops. So I'm currently looking at the Oxford store. And I'm just wondering from you guys, like, what do you think from, you know, getting someone to volunteer? I don't live there, so I wouldn't be able to volunteer. What do you think makes a good volunteer?
Abby, do you want to answer that, or was that for me?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose an ideal volunteer profile in terms of this role would be someone who is a good listener, someone who's very patient, you know, ultimately like would enjoy speaking to new people, enjoy speaking to strangers, and someone who fully understands this notion we talk a lot about at the Chatty Cafe scheme that is simply having a chat can really brighten someone's day, and a volunteer who really gets that ethos. Does that help?
Yeah, but it's just obviously because I don't live there as well, it's a little bit more difficult. So I just need to make sure that I'm finding the right person.
Yeah, and Lucy, we can speak offline as well about this in more detail. And obviously we have our volunteer role profile, and we have resources, and we can absolutely help you there.
No, thank you.
Okay. And Jeanette, can I take a question from you, please?
The only thing I haven't heard is anything about finance, is because I've heard you speak about leaflets being delivered and things like this. How's that financed?
Yeah, so we have, albeit it's quite small, but a budget to cover the cost of printing. So if a volunteer, once they're matched to a venue and we've got agreed a day and time, I can work with the volunteer to edit our Chatty Cafe posters to specify the days that the sessions are running and the address, and get those posted out to the volunteer's house. And we can get them in size A4 or smaller A5. I mean, obviously it's ideal if a venue has printing facilities and can print them themselves from a cost point of view, but if that's not possible, we do recognise that those posters and leaflets are so important.
I was wondering, do you actually charge the people to come, or is it because they buy coffees and teas and things, that's whoever comes and whenever comes?
Yeah, no, there's not a charge to people. But I mean, in the majority of venues, they don't get a free drink. In some smaller cases, we are applying for grant funding within local areas to help cover the cost of drinks. But there's no charge for a member of the public to go.
I actually remember coffee meet for 7 years now. I do get funding, but I don't get funding, especially now. It's hard to get funding, so it's lower. We're refunded this year, but we still do charge a small nominal amount. It's £3, and that just pays for the extra teas, because we provide everything. We use a venue and we provide the teas and the coffees and that, so we need to get the money in, and of course all the advertising. Plus we run a support group on the side, so we help people that can't come to the meetings. If they've got any problems, we'll help with that, so we're going to do that. So we need the funding for both running the coffee morning and the support group. So yeah, but I'm really encouraged, because to say I do mark one on a Monday, but my people do go to a local cafe on a Thursday, meet up, a few of them. So I'm quite willing to go to them to see if they would run a Chatter and Natter, a group there, to encourage a few more people to come out. So my other thing was put on there about how do I get hold of posters and leaflets so they can go and speak to people about it. Find somewhere else to carry on the venue.
Okay, yeah, and again, any of these types of questions, please do email me separately. And I think, Susan, you mentioned something about leaflets. Please contact me, and I can absolutely work with you to get them sent out. Is that a wrap, or do we have any more?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much.
No, is that okay?
Thank you, Abby, and thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, if there's no more questions, we'll probably wrap it up there. So it's 2:45. Well, thank you so much again to everyone, and again, please, remember I'm here, so do email me or call me if I can help.
Thank you.
Is that okay? And thank you so much to John, of course. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye now. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys. See you, Rachel. Bye.